Aloha all. So today I wanted to talk about the 44th gene key. And I haven't made a video in a while because I feel like I've been living the gene keys. And so when I share about these gene keys, it's not an interpretation necessarily of Richard's words, but it's more a lived experience of my own that I've taken through that particular gene key. And 44 has always been very special to me. In a way, it feels like home. And it feels like I've known about this gene key for my whole life. It's always been there. It's always been just below the surface. This idea of the synarchy, right? It's interference to teamwork, to synarchy. And it's really taken me on a journey, I feel like, since infancy. And yet, with this particular key, there's always this sense that it's been living me. And I definitely have experienced a lot of what I would call the interference patterns. You know, it's these experiences that we have throughout life that take us into so many different directions that are away from our divinity and the true essence of who and what we are. And in a way, this is the meaning of life, isn't it? It's taking all of the adventure of life, these twists and turns, and into every different possible experience, and who do we become within that experience. And oftentimes those experiences are ones of pain and suffering and trauma. And and I'll just speak for myself, as I move through life, what I'm recognizing now in hindsight, as I see all these myriad kaleidoscope of experiences, is that something's happening now that is much more nuanced. It feels like there is a coming together of all those experiences of pain and suffering, interference, while there's a coming together of the divinity, of the synarchy, of the oneness, of the unity back into creation itself. The creator that created me is not separate from me. And so as we explore then the shadow, the interference patterns, for me are becoming much more nuanced and much more precise. They're felt quite immediately. So I don't have to go down a long, arduous path for like months or years. It's like I can enter into a situation that it's known almost immediately that it's out of energetic integrity. Therefore, it's an interference pattern. So I think of, I explain it in words, I think of interference patterns as continually going down roads that I know does not serve my highest alignment. So over these years of life experience, I've gone down certain pathways of experience. And now, we can repeat them in ways that look a little bit different, with different characters playing different parts. But we come to a moment where you start to recognize these patterns that you loop in. And you start to see how they're actually interfering with actually what's completely in integrity and alignment for your soul, for that higher aspect of you. And you only know this through experiencing the opposite, through experiencing the interference again and again, we start to recognize what it feels like we're in alignment. So as we start to feel that energetically within our body, we start to recognize the subtleties of any interference patterns quite quickly. So for instance, I go into a place that I've known with friends that are familiar, that at one time I felt aligned with, and there's a recognition at some point that this no longer feels quite right. Something just feels not right in my body. Conversation feels slightly forced. A moment of kind of shrinking and minimizing who I am because I need to please or make another person feel comfortable, right? These little moments when we abandon self, when we shrink or minimize the truth of who and what we are, these are interference patterns. So another way it can show up, watching or listening to certain music, watching certain TV shows, and as you're watching them, you're recognizing that the energetic vibration of these, the song or the TV show it's old. It feels like you need to lower your energetic vibration, or you literally feel like almost like a sinking sensation in your body, right? So interference patterns can show up a lot of different ways, particularly in relationships that have been the closest to you for a long period of time. This is my experience. So if I've been in a relationship with a person that I'm very close to, that has known me very well, then the moment that I shift or break a pattern, it's very confronting to the other person, because I no longer resonate through that lens that they see me energetically. And therefore, because I've broken out of that pattern, when I come back into relationship with them, if I'm playing in that same pattern, there is an interference frequency from what I'm portraying to what I know I'm actually am in that moment. Does that make sense? So I'm becoming a lower version, a past version of self in order to interact with this person. So that interference means I'm having to put my energetic vibration, my energetic integrity into a place that was a past version of me in order to continue to play in that particular relationship. So oftentimes those relationships, when that's recognized, will start to dissolve because you realize within them, you can't fully expand. You can't fully be the totality of yourself, that you have to shrink or self-abandon once again in order to continue that relationship in a way that's comfortable for another person. So there's so many ways that this interference pattern shows up. And the commitment to my own inner heart, to my own awakening, to my own journey, my soul's path, is once those patterns are seen, that awareness shines a light. And I have to shift the pattern, and I do that by breaking it. That there's a recognition that I can no longer experience that old version of self without lowering and minimizing and contorting myself to fit in it. And that becomes a non-negotiable because it's out of energetic integrity where now I wish to reside in a higher integrity, right? And when I continually commit to being in that self-energetic integrity with soul, with creation, then that gift of teamwork, that opens up into something entirely new. Because now that I have expanded and leveled up, so to speak, what happens is the beings, the circumstances, the moments, the synchronicities, I'm magnetizing to myself something completely different. Something that feels more expansive, more aligned, that I get to open up more fully in, that may still actually, trigger me to break open even further, because that's what I'm calling forth if I'm in energetic integrity. Yet the next step on my path to cracking open even further, to letting more transparency, more intimacy in. I am in a team collaboration with the source of myself. And therefore, when I'm not within, when I am in complete coherence within, then everything in my outer world is going to bring me the opportunities to create from that new state of being, that teamwork, right? That trust, and that will show up as new people in my life, or it will show up as previous people in my life also choose to step into that higher, lower, but that higher state of being, and they evolve. And then we catalyze one another within our relationship. We stay in that energetic integrity as we break apart the old patterns and say yes to the new patterns. And then our relationships grow together. And those are some of the most beautiful moments, of teamwork, of really two souls being on the same trajectory and being so devoted to their path of awakening. And I've experienced both those things. And this state of teamwork, which is challenging, has been challenging for me, continues to be challenging for me, is requiring a deep trust fall, because what it's bringing up is every way that I have had my trust betrayed, which is having me ask, how do I find that trust and that faith again in my own choices, in my own decisions, seeing the moments of severing in old, especially childhood moments where I thought who I trusted was there for me, and then that trust was completely severed, causing me to not trust my own choices. And so I've had to face off with all those deep parts of myself and those challenging moments where you're literally walking in this, this shadow, this unknown place. And that is extremely, extremely, it brings up all your fears, right? It brings up all the moments of not trusting yourself, of being fearful, of fearing others. And it takes a lot of courage and a lot of really surrender to begin to have that faith and that trust in self rebuilt, so that you can begin to trust others again and come into that place of teamwork, that place of cohesion, that place of meeting another who has also healed those deep wounds, and in this one, the city of the Synarchy, it's like this particular key, which actually is in my evolution, in my radiance, and has so much to do with my health, has at moments taken a toll on my health when I have really been playing in that interference pattern state, really not owning and playing the character that I thought other people wanted me to play. And so as we move into that gift of teamwork in that city of the Synarchy, it truly is about trust. And that's what it's come down to for me, of I can't trust another until I'm in full trust of who and what I am, and I'm able to fully embody it. I'm able to fully embody every iteration as one layer peels off and another layer reveals itself. And I embody that next state that my soul is asking me to stand up within. And this is the ability to trust myself at a deep level of full understanding of my own inner integrity. Then, because I've met all of those parts of myself, I can meet another with that integrity, with that transparency, with that trust, with that teamwork. And I'll tell you, one of the most magical things that begins to happen, and he does talk about this in this book, is the ability to smell those in your fractal line, right? So this is about fractal families. And once you get through all of the shit of the interference, the clarity that comes through, in that sense, that sense of smell. And it's not like a smell that you smell with your nose, a scent. It's almost as if every part of your being can sniff out what is so in alignment with you. The people, the beings, you can almost sense and feel them through every cell of your being, that they are a part of you, that you are a part of them, that they are part of the oversoul fractal, that you are meant to now co-create with, that you are creating that synarchical geometry with. It's almost as if you feel them as a piece of your puzzle. And every word you share, every gaze you share, every silent moment you share is like catalyzing and expanding and mirroring to you more of yourself. So the Synarchy I see as this vision of the future that we're seeding in the present that is leading us back into the garden of oneness. And that sounds very poetic because it's an energetic stream of consciousness, a vibration of truth and of trust. And so I feel it as the energy in my body that feels most aligned with the divine. And putting words to that is very difficult because very few have yet to experience what this journey is. And I feel like there's much more of this journey for myself into creating the Synarchy. But it's funny because ever since I was a child, I've always had this vision of a place that felt like home, a place where the mountains met the ocean, a place where everything had this light of illumination around it, a place where the animals and the waters and the earth and the plants were all somehow within me and I was within them. And I'm starting to understand this as part of the Synarchy, as part of this unity consciousness that we are coming back to within the garden of the self. And so all of this that I'm sharing about the 44th gene key perhaps is just an energetic frequency, perhaps for you to feel it within your body without having to put a contextual interpretation intellectually on the words I'm saying. It's a felt sense of a place that you are simultaneously existing, right? It all feels very multidimensional, which it is, because there is pieces and parts of us that know these acidic frequencies because they exist within us and we are existing in them simultaneously. But it's only once we're in this massive energetic integrity that we can expand and feel that kind of quantum multidimensionality where there's many things happening at once. And so we're choosing certain pathways that we wish to align with, that we wish to experience, and that we wish to create new realities and new worlds with as a union. And so I don't know what much more what I can say because I feel it as this beautiful template within my body that is the Synarchy, right? And it's not about me because I am the individual energy right now that just happens to be speaking this into existence, but I am not an individual. I am, in fact, if you're listening to this, an aspect of you that is just in energetic integrity to receive this in this precise moment. So that can feel very paradoxical, a lot of what I've said to the mind. And this key feels like that to me. It feels so multidimensional, paradoxical, like very different, balancing the scales of a very physical reality and a very esoteric one. And what does it look like to feel both of those within our bodies and allow that to be, even though it can feel a little confusing, So maybe just sit with this entire transmission of my experience of the 44th gene key and see if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, maybe even feel the interference patterns within you, the things that just quite don't feel a little right. They just feel a little off. And what does it feel like, to move into complete coherence with the energy that is within your body and just play with that exercise for a moment. What does complete balance feel like when I'm in energetic integrity with every cell of my being, with every molecule, atom, and strand of illuminated DNA? And what does this vessel feel like when it is in that coherence with all that is? And see what happens. And maybe just use that as an inquiry for now. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you next time. Aloha all.